We're going to have a special presentation by attorney Derrick Alexander Pope. Hear ye him.
Good afternoon, church.
Good afternoon.
Now, we know in the black church there's this phrase called the call and response. About an hour ago, I got a call on behalf of Pastor Flipper and said, I need you to come back over here and do this presentation. My response was 2 words. Yes, sir. It's Black History Month. And if it weren't for the work of people like the Senior Mission Circle, we really wouldn't have any history to talk about. But when we look at history through our natural eyes, it allows us only to catch a glimpse of really what's going on. We see things like who did what on this date or that. And when we look at black history through our natural eyes, we see how our bodies were emancipated, our minds educated, and our living conditions desegregated. But wouldn't it be nice if we could look at black history, and I mean really look at black history, and see something more? Wouldn't it be nice if we could look at black history and see how our mission could be resuscitated, our choices validated, and the vision of why we were made black in the first place illuminated? If I were an optometrist, I could use an optical refractor to develop a pair of lenses so that I could see black history a little clearer. If I were a scientist, I could look in a microscope and look at the microorganism of black history and see it deeper. And if I were an astronomer, I could use a telescope so that I could bring history far away, closer to view. I need a real, strong lens. A spiritually objective, unveiling lens.
All right.
Spiritually, S. Objective, O. Unveiling, U. Lens, L. S-O-U-L. I need some black history soul. And the lens I want to look through is the letter from a Birmingham jail. Now, many of you know that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote this letter in April of 1963 in response to an editorial in the Birmingham News penned by 8 white clergymen, chastising him for leading the lunch counter sit-ins, boycotts, massive arrests, and massive demonstrations known as Project Confrontation. When he read their editorial, he heard them say, these demonstrations are unwise and untimely. These demonstrations are really put on by outside agitators, and the local residents can solve this problem better. This demonstration, we urge all Negroes to withdraw from their participation and let law and order take its course. Dr. King hated being in jail because for him it represented a suffocating self-reproach and a crisis in his leadership that he thought he had resolved just a couple of days earlier. Friday morning, Good Friday morning, April 12th, sitting in room 30 of the Gaston Hotel, owned by billionaire Arthur G. Gaston, the only black millionaire in Alabama. He sat and listened to his advisors. One of the SCLC members said, Dr. King, we don't have any more bail money. Why don't you go out and raise money like only you can? Some of the conservative members of the black community, ironically, they were black preachers, told him that we can handle this, you just go on about your business. Fred Shuttlesworth said, Martin, we are tired of you and the SCLC coming to town with your media circus and leaving us to deal with the KKK and the violence. Dr. King looked at them, left them in the front of the suite, went to his room, and stayed there for 30 minutes and came out, changed out of his suit and put on a blue denim shirt with the blue jean dungarees and said to them, I don't know what will happen and I don't know where the money will come from, but I have to make a faith act. Sitting in that cell, responding point by point, writing on toilet tissue in the corner of a newspaper, on a cot that did not have a mattress, did not have blankets, did not have a sheet, 3 feet away from a filthy, seatless toilet. He answered, he said, I'm not an outside agitator. I was invited by the Birmingham SCLC affiliate, but more importantly, I am here because injustice is here. And you know that he said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. He told them, I saw that you deplored the demonstrations, but I am so sorry that you could not find deplorable the conditions that gave rise to the demonstrations. He told them that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor, but must be demanded by the oppressed. But it was the point in the editorial where they told him to wait, that he dug deep in his soul. And he said, there seems to be a tragic misconception that there is something in the very nature and flow of time that will solve all societal ills. Telling them why waiting was not an option, he said, when you have seen the vast majority of your 20 million Negro brothers smothering in the airtight container of poverty amidst a society of affluence, when you are harried by day and haunted by night by the very fact that you are a Negro living in the tiptoe stance of never quite knowing what is going to happen next, when you are plagued by innermost fears and outermost resentments, when you are forever fighting against the degenerating sense of nobodiness, you will find it easy to understand why we make it difficult to wait. Oh, you can see, church, that the spiritually objective, unveiling lens injected soul into the movement, transforming it from one that was just going beyond mere protest into societal transformation. But looking at this lens, I see something more, something that is still plaguing you and I today. It says, I stand between two opposing forces in the Negro community. One force is complacency, brought on in part by the long suffering of Negroes who have, because of a denial of self-respect, have adjusted to segregation. And in other part, brought on by those who've attained educational and economic security and who profit from segregation, who have become indifferent to the suffering of the masses. He then turned his attention to the church and said, so often, the contemporary church is a weak and ineffectual voice with an uncertain sound. So often, it is an arch defender of the status quo. Far from being a disturbance to anyone, in the average community, the power structure is consoled by its silent and often vocal consent and sanction of what is. Looking at this lens, and we have still a lot of work to do. Perhaps we are like Mary when she stood outside the tomb and she heard Jesus' voice and she rushed to him and he said, touch me not, for I have not ascended to my Father. It must have been Jesus was thinking that, Mary, I think you think that my birth, my baptism, my teaching, my preaching, my healing, my betrayal, my arrest, my trial, my conviction, my crucifixion, my resurrection was the whole story. My racial kinfolk, I think we think that our enslavement and emancipation, Reconstruction, Jim Crow intimidation, segregation and desegregation and affirmative action was enough. There is more to the story. The letter from a Birmingham jail is a spiritually objective, unveiling lens that, like a pair of glasses that lets me see who we really are. Next time, somewhere, some point in the future, I'll do a microscopic look at the organism of black history so we can see up under the lens what's really happening in that wiggling body. God bless you. Thank you, Pastor Flippin. God bless you.